So let's look at a little bit more at the language and the structure of Mice and Snakes. Now, Mice and Snakes, Mother Any Distance, and My Father Thought It Bloody Queer are all from Armitage's first collection of poetry, which was called Book of Matches. And in Book of Matches, the central idea was that each poem could be read in the time that it took a match to burn down. If I just flick to the first poem, I've just taken this from the Amazon website, so it's online. This is the first poem in Book of Matches. My party piece, I strike, then from the moment when the matchstick conjures up its light to when the brightness moves beyond its means and dies, I say the story of my life. Dates and places, torches I carried, a cast of names and faces, those who showed me love or came close, the changes I made, the lessons I learnt, and so on and so forth. So, if you like, what Armitage wanted to do in these poems is within the time it took for a match to burn down, to give a chunk of a life, whether that be his life or the life of a narrator. Obviously, it's harder to say, but there is a really strong autobiographical element in the poems Book of Matches. So with Mice and Snakes, then we get this sonnet structure. In many ways, it's 14 lines, although in many ways it's nothing like a sonnet. When we think of a sonnet, we think of something about maybe love or nature and something fairly traditional. But when we look here, we look mainly at the stanza breaks, the breaks between each stanza, stanzas 1, 2, 3 and 4. So if we just look at those for a moment, I think it's worth thinking about why Armitage does it. As I mentioned previously, the idea of the beginning, that first stanza seeming fairly positive. It's about him and the old man, and they made a good team, and they never went outside and mixed it up, and they never fought. And then you get a side, and then you get a break from the odd time. And there's a sense there that there's a separation between maybe the fiction that this man has woven about being well brought up and the reality. So between the first stanza and the second stanza, we move from a rather an idealised sense of the relationship between the father and the son towards maybe something more realistic. Although he still glosses it, and the language is a language of kind of trying to cover up the truth. You know, apart from the odd time when I did this, and, you know, every now and again, oh, and so it goes. So the narrator uses language in such a way that they mask the grim reality of what happened. So we have that first stanza break between aside and from, and then the break, so it goes, time moves on. And that, I think that stanza break between the dams and wine and so it goes suggests that time is moving on. And then in the last stanza breaks, I think particularly clever, particularly effective. Try not to use the word clever in an exam, or nice, never use the word nice. And effective is a much better word to use. Because it separates the father from the son. By the time I'm old enough to punch him back, he'll be away from me. He'll be too old. So I like the ending, the way in which the father and the father somehow distant from the son, and the father therefore becomes somehow untouchable. That no matter how much he might want to get his own back on the abuse that he levelled on the son and the mother, it will be too late because the man will be too old, and you don't want to punch an old man. So that use of structure we see there, just the use of the separation of the stanzas suggests that sense of separation between father and son, and I do think that's significant. If we look just quickly at some of the language again, it is the language of spoken, the language of speech. He's using, you know, the sort of fairly working class stepping outside, mixing it up. And then at the end there you've got the alliteration, broad and bothered and bold enough. And I think that's kind of suggesting, you know, when he's older he would be a bit tougher. And the hard b sound, it's what we call a plosive. And a plosive is a sound that comes out of the mouth, P-L-O-S-I-V-E, plosive. The b sound coming out of the mouth suggests that kind of, you know, the movement towards something slightly more aggressive, like a punch. But by the time he's old enough to be like that, then the father's going to be too old.